In lesson 11.4, we're going to talk about corresponding parts of similar triangles. So you might have recalled back when we talked about congruent triangles, we had CPCTC, which stood for corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, but here it's a little bit different. Here, if two triangles are similar, then the corresponding parts, things like altitudes, medians, angle bisectors, are proportional. And if you want to see a proof, you could probably look at about 587 in your book for that page and take a look at it. And we label this as CPSTP. So, for example, if we look here, we have something called a bisector of an angle in our triangle, and it's dividing up our side into two segments that are in the same ratio as the lengths of the two sides, forming the angle that was bisected. So what this really means is that if I have an angle bisector right here, going from C through D, and I know that that angle bisector, which I'm going to circle right here, the angle bisector, cuts the angles into two congruent parts. So that would be this angle right here and this angle right here. If that occurs, what that means is I can look at the ratios of how things are working and they match up in a proportion, just like similar triangles. What is that saying? That's saying is that as I look at the 14 above the angle bisector side, I see that here, as compared to the one that's below the angle bisector, 7, that ratio should be the same ratio as the 10 in orange on the left side of the triangle, and that's above the angle bisector, as compared to the one that's below it in the purple, 5. So right side over right side equals left side over left side, if that makes sense to you. So the green and the yellow were on the right side of the triangle and cut by the angle bisector, and the orange and the purple were on the left side. So this statement, the bisector of an angle, divides the opposite side into two segments who are in the same ratio as the lengths of the sides forming that angle. So the sides, the two segments who are in the same ratio, opposite, would be the 14 and the 7 in yellow and green, because I think this wording is kind of confusing. So that's these two colors. The opposite side, that's the 14 and the 7 combined, that's the opposite side. And then the sides forming the angle were the orange and the purple. So the two sides forming the angle were these two sides that were forming it. And what they're saying is that the green compared to the yellow, it should be the same as the orange compared to the purple. Take a look at that diagram, see if that makes sense to you. They're in the same ratio. 14 to 7, the opposite sides being split comparison should be 10, 5 comparison, same, which is where the angle was formed that was chopped in half. So the side split on the opposite side, 14, 7, has the same ratio as the sides where the angle was, 10 and 5. They're both a 2 to 1 ratio.